Hey, good morning, guys. Anthony 4x4 Diesel. We've got some really important information that we'd like to share to help people understand and obtain free engines when they get cracked pistons, because we believe these should be replaced. Now, we've got a whole heap of info, and just before everybody gets too excited, we just want to recap on a couple of things because we've had a lot of people trying to make contact. The phone number we provide, it doesn't ring. It's not a phone service, it's a text message service only. And it's obviously for other purposes other than to ask questions. If you've got questions, please use our Facebook groups. That's what they're there for. That way you can get help from a number of people, not just rely on me. I'm very busy, there's only one of me. And by posting in the group, there's a number of people that may already know the answers that can answer for you, including technicians, DIYs, all sorts of people. I'll probably get to it in the end, I'll see it sooner or later. And that way, when we put an answer up, everybody can see it, so people can refer to it later. They can search when they've got problems. That's the other thing you can do. You can search, but when people see it, they learn the answer. So when it happens to them, rather than, can you imagine, 10,000 people or 100,000 people all trying to send me a text or call me to talk about the same problem. So we just can't do it. So this is how we manage it. Anyway, moving on to the topic, free engines. Okay, free engines from cracked pistons. We've got a new playlist called Free Engines. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pop whatever videos I see or produce that I think may be helpful to a free engine. And we've done a number of videos trying to give you a bit of a guide on how you should handle it if you come across that unlikely for most people. It's a very low percentage, but when you've got, I've said it before, hundreds of thousands of these engines in Australia and millions around the world, it's going to happen to a few people eventually, and it's the people that use them off-road. It's the people that use them for the big towing. It's the people that have got the chips, tunes, remaps, the big tyres, all the modifications, the bull bars, all those things up the front there blocking the airflow. They're actually all contributors, but that does not mean that it's okay. So, there's a whole heap of contributors we've talked about. We're not talking about that in this video. We're not talking about the easy way to diagnose a cracked piston in 3 minutes. The engine doesn't need to be stripped down. You don't need to be a qualified expert. You just need to be watching my videos, subscribed with a bell on. All the information's out there and coming, so you can check out those older videos. You can check out the new ones that are coming. What this one's about is key information on why I believe Toyota, we're using that word loosely because you've got, let's say, 3 levels. You've got the dealership level, you've got Toyota Australia level, and you've got obviously Toyota Japan, head office if you like. So when we say Toyota, whoever it may be, it's not really the dealership's fault. It's not up to them to pay for the engine. So we're not sort of picking on the dealerships with this one. It's probably to do with Australia and head office Japan combination. They need to work that out. Now, let's give a few examples. Look, I think everybody would agree these are abnormal failures. Now, we're going to have another video explaining clearly what normal failures are, some examples, and what abnormal failures are. Now, because this is an abnormal failure and it's happening at such low kilometers, I think everybody would agree, once we all get on the same page and understand it, that I would agree, the clients would agree, the owners would agree, most workshops would agree. Some people, I say most because some people just don't agree, just to be difficult. I think that if you went into any Toyota dealership and had a sit down with anyone that's got their head screwed on the right way, they would agree that this should not be happening, okay? I think TMCA would agree, you're right, this should not be happening, and maybe this is why they are assisting so many people. Don't be fooled, rest assured, there has been many engines replaced under warranty, and like an extended policy, out of warranty, abnormal failure. Okay, so things that are going to help you are obviously having all your service in check. So it's consumer law, Trade Practices Act, that you do not have to take your vehicle to the Toyota dealership or whatever the case may be to have it serviced. But it does need to be done satisfactorily. It's probably going to be a matter of by a qualified person, but we all know the most important things contributing to this engine and the health of the engine, the only things are really oil changes and filter changes. There's nothing else that's a regular part of the scheduled service that's going to make any difference. So if you've got receipts for your oil filters, your air filters, your fuel filters, and you've got regular changes as per their schedule or better, I don't see a reason why they could reasonably argue the point that, none of that's really going to cause this problem here. It's we're not going into the documents. That's in other videos that will be in that free engines playlist, and there's other playlists we're going on about it, waffling on about it more and more. Okay, so I think the dealerships would agree, yes, this shouldn't happen. I think TMCA would agree, and Mr. Toyota, he would probably say this is ridiculous. This shouldn't be happening. Yes, let's fix the problem, which they did work on many times. They did a number of piston revisions. They changed injectors, whatever the case may be. And there's so many engines that last so long, but some of them are the unlucky ones for a number of reasons we're not going to bother repeating ourselves about in this video. So I think once everybody understands the situation, everybody's going to be agreeable that it is an abnormal failure. This isn't how an engine should come to an end, and this is why people have put their trust in Toyota for decades and decades. We still believe they build the best vehicles. They're one of the most awesome, reliable, engineered vehicles available, and they are good value for money, even though the prices just keep going up and up. It's not Toyota's fault, really. It's what's happened with the dollar. That's a whole other separate video as well. You know, the government's putting the money out there. So basically, we just like justice. We like a fair outcome, and we don't believe that people should be paying. There's been a price increase on the engines. It would have been good if we could keep that one down, but now an engine for a 120 Prado is about $11,500, and then you've got your other gaskets, coolants, oils, bits and pieces you're going to need, timing belts, idlers, tensioners, glow plugs, whatever, about another over $1,000 worth, I'll say, ballpark. It varies on each engine a bit depending what you're reusing and what you've just changed, that you might be able to reuse, that sort of thing. But you're looking at about, let's just say, 12.5 grand plus labour. You know, it's at least a $15,000 job if your turbo and radiator and all your other things are okay. Could easily push up towards a $20,000 job. It's quite a great expense that people shouldn't have to be footing the bill for at the sort of kilometres we're seeing failures. Now, although there's quite a lot in the 200,000k range, there is some in the 100,000k range. So, you know, when I say 100,000, that's, you know, between 1 and 200,000. We've heard of them at under 100,000k range. So obviously it can happen under 100,000, very rare. It can happen in the 100,000, not very common, I'd still say. It's more common around the 200,000-300,000. And I'm going to put it out there quickly in this video. The majority, the big number of vehicles with cracked pistons have commonly got chips, tunes and remaps. So once we eliminate those out of the picture, we've got a whole heap less vehicles. And I've said it before, I don't expect Toyota to be paying for engines for people that went against their advice, my advice, or anyone else that's giving good advice, and not asking more of the 4-cylinder engine. So I just think that if you can demonstrate, whether it's in writing or in person, to a Toyota representative like a Toyota dealer, that you've done all the right service, you've done 5,000k oil changes, even double as many as what they say, so the protection's there. I've got this set up here, I've got everything I can possibly do to have airflow to the engine. I do the BFE, I reverse flush the radiator, we've got airflow. So over and above with maintenance, over and above what they've asked you to do, you've done what I've asked you to do, which is above and beyond, well above, then you shouldn't be having any failures. Now, I'm going to put it out there that I believe the engine's being under heavy load for a long time, and the combustion not being 100%. See, the thing is, the combustion has got to be 100%. They've documented problems with injectors in Toyota documents, so we know there's a problem. They haven't said there's a problem with the pistons. They've said they've made the piston more robust. So like you've got a problem up at this end, but you're trying to make that end stronger. It didn't work out. So even by making it stronger, it didn't work out. It doesn't mean there was a problem with the piston. If there was a problem with the pistons, we wouldn't have engines that had done 500,000, a million kilometres, which we do. We've had those, seen those, we hear of those. We supply injectors for those regularly, 500,000k engines, 400,000k engines, this sort of thing. The million K ones, they're the sort of ones you hear about. We don't actually see those in the workshop here, Victoria. Unfortunately, we don't get those high Ks. They're more the WA vehicles that we hear about from clients, you know, their friends, that sort of thing. So they're out there, it does happen. So there's not a problem with the piston. I believe it is clearly, you know, caused by wrong combustion as documented by Toyota. So it's documented, it's a recognised problem. Don't think, oh no, they're not going to pay for it. If you believe that, then maybe that's what you'll get. But once you understand it properly, you've done the maintenance right, get it in your head that this shouldn't happen. It's not a normal failure. It's not somebody left the air filter out and it's full of dust, it's worn rings, it's worn bearings, somebody didn't change your oil, it's a lack of service. It's none of the usual sort of engine failures. It is an abnormal failure. It shouldn't happen, and I believe it should be covered by Toyota. It's their engine, their manufacturing. Regardless of what the problem is, other than chips and tunes, they said you can tow 2.5 ton. So if you've got a 3-ton vehicle and another 2.5, 5.5 ton, that's what you're towing, and you're hauling a caravan around Australia. I wouldn't do it because I've got a fair idea of what's going to happen unless you're really lucky and you've got it running in peak condition, like injectors every 150k, even more, diagnostics every 6 months, regular overdone oil changes, air filters, cleaning sensors. The engine is highly strung, right? You're putting pressure on it anyway. Now, if you've got a set of injectors, you start up the car and it's blowing smoke at 120k and you neglect to take action and you keep towing a caravan around, you know what's going to happen, okay? It's inevitable what's going to happen if things are not running in peak condition. But regardless of all this information I can provide, or just my opinion or whatever, it's actually a fact that these abnormal failures are abnormal, and therefore you should not be copping the bill for the repairs. Okay, the best way to rectify this is a brand new long motor because it requires injectors. It's the best value for money. Obviously, Toyota make them. They get them the cheapest. The dealerships, they've done plenty of them. They can get them in pretty quick. If it's a long motor, we're not relying too much on technicians to be able to select the right head gasket and replace the head bolts, torque them up correctly and not have oil leaks. It's a sealed engine. Most things we're relying on them for is to not bust clips, clamps, plugs, all the things external to the engine, which can be rectified later, but if they can take their time and get it right the first time, that would be beautiful. And it's easy enough to look around outside and double check things that may or may not have been forgotten. Anyway, hope this helps you understand. It should be quite simple. There could be a bit of a process, but that's the first port of call. Ask the question of Toyota. Have all your information. Keep all your services. Keep records of everything. So if and when it happens to you, that you're prepared for it. Be prepared, kind of expect it. It's probably not going to happen to you, but expect it and be prepared, so then you've got all your ducks in a row if it does happen. There's going to be more videos on what to do if that doesn't work out, so subscribe, turn the bell on. Thanks for watching. We're going to be sharing heaps of information, trying to help you out. These engines, hopefully Toyota have been doing and will continue to do the right thing. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.